When Baby It's You came into my life, I was working at a restaurant called Au Natural on 37th and 3rd in New York City. I was a cook in the kitchen, and I was still going to drama school. I was studying at Stella Adler's Conservatory of Acting, and and doing something I wasn't supposed to do, which was auditioning, because when you were a student at the school, they frowned upon people auditioning while they were also going to school. The school didn't feel that any of the students were prepared to enter into the professional world of acting, that we had to have at least 2 years under our belt at the school before we should be auditioning. And I didn't agree with that at all. I thought it was very important to take the things that I was learning in school and apply them to real practical situations. So I don't remember how I got the audition with the wonderful casting director, Margie Simpkin. The audition was someplace in Lower Manhattan. And I went in to meet Margie Simpkin, and I was appropriately nervous. I was a young actor. Didn't really have a firm grip on what it was that I was doing. But I auditioned, and she said, "That was good. Would you do it again, but do this?" And I did, and she said, "Good. Now would you do it again, but do this?" And I did. And she said, "Good. I want you to come back tomorrow to meet the producers, Amy and Griffin Dunn and Amy Robinson." And I came back the following day. I met them, and I was cast in Baby It's You. First of all, I didn't know anything about Baby It's You. I didn't know what it was about. I knew it was a song that the Beatles covered, Baby It's You. The only role that I was being offered to come in and audition for that was appropriate for, I think, in the entire film was this character, Steve. But I will say, we filmed the scenes out of order. There was a scene where Rosanna Arquette and I meet in a restaurant, and then he finds himself at Sarah Lawrence, and she invites him in, and now she's a completely different person. She's transformed from this sort of young straight-laced girl to somebody who's kind of 60s hippie, smoking weed and sexually active, and that kind of blows Steve's mind. So we filmed that scene first, and then it went so well, according to Griffin Dunn and John Sayles and Amy, that they felt that they needed to expand and make Steve's part a little bit bigger so that it would justify him showing up at her dormitory at Sarah Lawrence. And so when I showed up to film the scene where we meet, John Sayles came over, "Hey, you did a great job, and here's a little monologue that we want you to do," which it terrified me and blew my mind, and like, oh my God, I have this chunk of dialogue that I have to now quickly memorize. And I think it was good because Steve is an awkward, nervous about being on a date and being with her. The fact that I didn't know it as well as I would have liked to, the monologue, the way I clumsily go through the story, it was good that I didn't know the monologue that well, because it kind of lent itself to what he was going through as a character. Then Rosanna came over, and she said that, she was very complimentary. And, so for a young actor, I think I was 19, 20 years old. I don't remember how old I was, maybe 21. It was a gigantic boost for my ego and my confidence to have been rewarded with this additional scene. I felt like I was in the right profession. In New York City in the 80s, John Sayles was a kind of legend. He'd won some award, like a MacArthur Grant, an award that was given to geniuses. And he was a giant man, very soft-spoken, and it was a great thrill to be working with somebody who was so known and so respected. What I do remember that I thought was extraordinary was how intimate John Sayles' sets were. It was a very small dormitory. John was tucked right next to the camera, really close to the camera, watching the scene, and almost like Fellini directing the scene as it was going along, you know, kind of encouraging me like a conductor. And I could see his face and his hands in the peripheral vision. He was participating in the scene. I may as well have, you know, taken a puff on the joint and passed it to him and let him really be a part of the scene. I mean, that's how close he was. He wasn't more than 2 or 3 feet from me while I was sitting on the bed smoking the joint. And I found that it was so comforting, and the encouragement that he gave while the camera was running, that I've never really experienced that kind of intimacy on a film set since then. You know, a lot of times today, film directors, they're not even in the same room. They're in another room watching a monitor, and they sort of calling in from the other room, giving directions. And, you know, that works too. But what John Sayles provided by being in the room and that intimacy, especially for a young actor, you know, trying to find his way, I found that it was very comforting, paternal. Everybody was really excited by the package, the creative package that was putting this film together. It kind of came together in that kind of creative environment that was the 80s, the early 80s, of where it was possible to find young artists that were all wanting to be a part of a fabric of a film, and to do something that was incredibly creative, and, you know, just a story about a young girl growing up and coming of age. That was kind of revolutionary in itself. As I say, I was just thrilled to be working, to have a job, to be working with such a distinguished group. Film was received very well. They say in Hollywood that success has 1,000 fathers and failure is an orphan. So I was happy to be a part of something that was successful and being received well, and not just commercially, but mostly artistically. That the way that the film was looked upon was as a piece of art rather than some commercial fare, and I appreciated that. I enjoyed being a part of something that was being looked upon that in that perspective. Baby, It's You certainly opened the doors of opportunity for me for other projects.